Hello, I'm Keith Spera from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Welcome to Let's Talk. My guest today was born in Scotland and literally ran to America. He attended Nicholls State University in Thibodeau on a track scholarship, graduating with a degree in marketing and an MBA. Now he is president and CEO of the National World War II Museum, one of New Orleans' most prominent and popular attractions. In June 2025, the museum celebrates its 25th anniversary, even as it continues to expand its already extensive reach. Here to talk about all that and more is Stephen Watson. Stephen, welcome to Let's Talk, sir.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So you're growing up in Scotland. You're going somewhere else for college. You look at all the great cities of the world and you say, Thibodeau is where I need to be.
Absolutely. Why not? Why not?
Why not Thibodeau?
Yeah, it was kind of a chance encounter. I actually started university in Scotland. My freshman year was at the University of Aberdeen. And literally, the last day of my first semester, I bump into a fellow runner who says, I'm heading off to the United States on track scholarship. See you later. And literally didn't think much about it. And 2 months later, I get a U.S. priority mail envelope at my dorm, and I open it up, and there's a full track scholarship offer from Nicholls State University.
You hadn't applied?
I had not applied.
Really?
And a little note, which I still have, the scholarship offer, I still have the note. It says, be downstairs in the lobby of the dorm tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and you're going to get a call. And it was the head coach, and it was Drew Sharkey, who was the guy I referred to, and he had done quite well and told the coaches, if you want me to come back, I need some of my comrades to come over here and hang out with me. So I was one of half a dozen Scottish guys that came over and ran track at Nicholls State.
So it was, I mean, they wanted you to kind of support their star runner that they already brought over to help keep him there.
He said he wasn't coming back if he was in Thibodeau by himself. So we all came over, and it was an amazing experience. I just think Nicholls is a special place. It really is, and had a great experience there as a runner, great experience academically. And stay very involved with the school. So I've got nothing but great things to say about Thibodeau and Nicholls State.
But so your intention was not to move to the United States then at all? I mean, that was not part of the plan.
No, not really. My senior year in high school, I was national 5K champion and certainly had aspirations to continue my running career. I had a mentor and a couple of people that I knew had done this. In fact, most of the women's distance running records at the University of Alabama are still held by a teammate of mine from the club that I ran for in Scotland. So I knew it was a thing, and I guess maybe thought it was a possibility at some point, but it really was a chance encounter that led to this. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, if I don't take this opportunity, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And boy, what a life changer.
Well, 100% it changed it. Life. So once you got over here, though, you knew you were going to stay in the States. I mean, was that something you aspired to?
Yeah, for the most part. First time I got on a plane, destination was Thibodeau, Louisiana. And
the first time you ever got on a plane was to fly to Thibodeau to start your college?
First time I ever got on a plane.
Wow.
Was from Glasgow, Scotland to Washington, Dulles, and Dulles to New Orleans. And we arrived August 14th to run long distances. I had never experienced heat and humidity in my life. So I would say it was a transitional period in the first few months. But yeah, I mean, pretty early on, I was certainly committed to stay and finish my degree. And after a few years, I really decided, I don't want to go back. This is home, and this is where I want to be. And that's almost 31 years ago now. So.
Yeah, the Scots are not swamp people.
We are not swamp people, but I will tell you, as funny as this sounds, there are a lot of similarities between Scottish people and people from South Louisiana. First of all, oil and gas, and if you're out in South Louisiana, it's a huge part of the economy. But also, people from South Louisiana, they're fun-loving. They don't take themselves too seriously. I think people from Scotland are the same way, being the sort of little part of the United Kingdom.
Right.
And sort of,
Right.
off to the side. I think, we're this little place at the bottom of this huge country, and I think we're very proud and aware that we're different and unique and special. And I think there are some similarities between Scottish people and people from South Louisiana in that regard. So, and I think that it was the welcome that, I got, that how we were embraced as these, foreigners from Scotland in this little place in South Louisiana that made it all possible for us to stay and thrive.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your Scottish heritage still comes up in unusual ways. I understand that the other night you were called up on stage with Kevin Griffin from Better Than Ezra to help sing the Proclaimers song 500 Miles.
Oh, wow.
Which is a Scottish duo, of course, the Proclaimers.
You must have talked to my wife.
I have sources everywhere, sir.
You have sources. Kevin Griffin has appeared in my life several times in the last month or two. We went to their concert at the Fillmore, the first weekend of Jazz Fest, I think.
Yep.
And which was kind of like a flashback to our college days in the early 90s. And then just by chance, yes, I'm part of a group called Young Presidents Organization, and I graduate this year because I turned 50, and our graduation gift was an appearance by Kevin Griffin, and at the end of the night, he's singing a Proclaimers song, and all of a sudden, I'm up on the stage singing it with him. And there is video to prove this. So,
you want to give us a couple of bars right now?
Oh no! That was a one-time experience. So,
but he was obviously aware that you are of Scottish descent. So
he was. They
sure.
gave him a few tips on all the graduates that night. So he had a little something for all of us. So it was fun. Good times.
So. Yeah, obviously, your life's ambition was not to lead the World War II Museum. It didn't exist when you started your college career, obviously. Were you a bit of a student of World War II growing up in Scotland?
I would say it was an important part of my life, even though as a teenager I probably didn't fully appreciate it. Like many people, I had a relative that served. My grandfather
was in the Air Force, the Royal Air Force?
Royal Air Force. Was a pilot and actually spent most of his time during the war in what was then called Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, which a lot of Commonwealth and Royal Air Force pilots trained there because the weather was good. They could get planes up in the air every day. It really, I think, was a transformative and complicated time for him in his life, because here was a kid from a rural area in Scotland, probably had never been more than 50 miles away from home. And 18 months later, he's a certified instructor flying aircraft in Africa. And then you come back home and you go back to doing exactly what you were before. And I think he struggled with that a little bit, but he proudly talked about his experiences. As a teenager, I went to Normandy, and I know both of us have been there and know how special a place that is.
Yep.
And then, here I am in New Orleans after graduate school in the late 90s, and there's this thing called the D-Day Museum that's being developed. At that same time, my grandfather, who picked up the bad habit of smoking during the war, was dying of lung cancer. So I went back to Scotland 2 or 3 times that summer, and the museum was getting ready to open, and it just felt like I know this sounds weird, but it sort of felt like a calling. It felt like there was something drawing me to the museum and its mission. So I'm not a scholar, I'm not a historian, but I've always had a keen interest in World War II, always had the family connection, and again, coincidentally, one of the great inventions of World War II is radar technology. And one of the key individuals credited with the development of that technology is a gentleman called Robert Watson Watt, no relation, but went to the same elementary and high school that I did in Scotland. And kind of like Andrew Higgins, no one knew about this guy and the Higgins boats for a long time.
Right.
No one really knew about Watson Watt and his contributions, and it's only really in the last 20 years that he's been recognized. So there's always been lots of connections to World War II, but certainly could never have dreamed to have ended at such a wonderful institution and have a role in developing what I believe is one of the greatest and most important museums of any kind in the country.
Well, and fortunately you came from a fine allied country. Had you been born in Japan or Germany, this might have been a little more awkward, a gig.
Certainly, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you about the World War II Museum if that had happened. But absolutely, yes.
Fine allied nation. If you're just tuning in, my guest today is National World War II Museum President and CEO, Stephen Watson. So you started off at the museum during running the membership campaign, the national membership campaign, getting people to sign on to be members of the museum, and you really grew that exponentially, it seemed like. So I mean, was it an easy sell? I mean, were people interested? Did you find that people were very interested in being a part of this museum from the get-go?
Yeah. So I'll talk about that in a second. But first of all, let me give a shout out to I think one of the partners in this endeavor, WWNO, because I really credit my 4 years at WWNO is giving me the experience to be able to go work at the museum, and I worked in membership and development at WWNO. But I think one of the most important things that I realized when I got to the museum was, yes, this is a museum, and yes, this is a place that people come and visit. And typically a museum membership is all about, you buy a membership because it makes more sense if you visit many times than buying tickets. Right. But I realized early on that really wasn't what we needed to think about. We had a cause and we had a mission that was relevant in every corner of this country. And we had to think of membership not in the transactional sense, but in the mission and cause sense. So we essentially took a very different approach to membership for a museum and really appealed to people not because of the benefits of buying a membership vis-a-vis buying a ticket, but buying a membership because of the importance of the mission, the cause, honoring a family member. And it was amazing. I mean, in the first 18 months, we went from about 3,000 members to 60,000 members. Wow. And we're, really honestly trying to figure out how to manage all of that. It was just unbelievable growth. But what that also, I think, told all of us was there's great interest in enduring respect for the war and what it meant to our country and the world. And candidly, that was back in 2002. When Katrina hit in 2005, had it not been for that membership base, I don't know that we would have made it. I mean, it was what sustained us. Well,
right, you had no ticket sales you were shut down, and no events, no nothing going on. So the membership was the thing that kind of floated the museum.
It did.
At that time,
It did, and most of those people were not from South Louisiana because, of course, it wasn't a time to be asking people from South Louisiana to help you.
Right.
So having a network of 50, 60,000, whatever it was at that time, of really passionate supporters who were not devastated by the hurricane really helped us get through what was, for all of us, personally and professionally a tough time.
So you started the museum, I think, in 2002. You became president and CEO in 2017 after Nick Mueller, the co-founder, essentially, of the museum, stepped down. Nick, obviously, Mr. Mueller, huge personality, force of nature. Intimidating for you to step into those shoes?
Very. Look, Nick Mueller is amazing. There is no World War II museum without Nick Mueller, full stop. And it was a privilege to work for him for 15 years in various different capacities. And I say all the time, it's a privilege to work for such a noble cause, and I was so fortunate to also have a great leader and mentor that saw something in me and gave me opportunities. Not everybody gets the combination of those two amazing things in their career. So I wake up every morning humble and grateful for the privilege that I have to serve in this role. But working for Nick was an amazing experience, and daunting to come in. Here's the guy that sat down with Steve Ambrose in 1989 and came up with this idea, who had been the chairman of the board, the CEO, an academic, an amazing fundraiser, visionary. But having been there certainly helped. Having been there for 15 years at that time. And as I said, I think at that time in June of 2017 when I stepped in, you don't fill the shoes of Nick Mueller. You just got to get your own pair and get real comfortable in them. And I was very conscious about the fact that you can't try and be Nick Mueller. You'll never be Nick. And Nick has continued to have, in an emeritus role, an important contribution, since his retirement from the CEO role 8 years ago.
So he's still around if you need him.
He's still around. He's in the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood. If you're just tuning in, my guest today is National World War II Museum President and CEO Stephen Watson. Yeah, and obviously your role as President and CEO, I mean, it's looking at numbers and making sure everything works and buildings get built and all this sort of thing, but it's also being a host. I mean, you've got to interact with all the major sponsors for the museum. You solicit money, I guess. You deal with the celebrities that come in. I mean, I think you and Tom Hanks are best buds now at this point.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So I mean, are you comfortable in that part of the role, in being the glad-handing guy, the party host guy, the schmoozing guy?
Yeah, I am, and I think that we have a great team. So it's certainly more than Stephen Watson that is doing that. We have a great team in development. We have great scholars and historians that play an important role in that work as well. So I'm a part of that, but it's by no means dependent on me and me alone, but I am, and I think I'm comfortable in it because I believe we're doing something important. And I think when you value what you're doing and you believe in it, and you also believe that you can execute on what you're telling people, I think it provides you a quiet confidence and belief that what you're asking for is going to have a positive impact. And it's like anything. The more you do it, the better you get at it. But I am very comfortable in that. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. And I enjoy it because resources give us the ability to make important things happen. And we've been blessed over the last 25 years as we've built this museum to have great supporters. But that work will never be done. And we will have to continue to find new ways to engage people and bring resources to the mission so that we can do more important work.
Well, I don't remember what the time frame is on this statistic, but you've kind of overseen, $400 million worth of capital fundraising and expansion? Is that the right number? How do I, that $400 million, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And that's what built the big, with the rooftop thing?
The canopy?
The canopy,
yeah.
yes.
Not quite $400 million, but it wasn't cheap.
It wasn't cheap, but very impressive. It seems like it does well in storms. So the thing, is held up very well, it seems like.
I mean, it's a question we often get.
Is it going to be a big paper airplane?
Is it going to be a big paper airplane?
Right.
A lot of, as you would imagine, a lot of careful study and thought went into that. But,
I'm sure.
But yeah, it's basically been, if you go back to the original D-Day Museum, the whole development's about $500 million. And that's been raised over the last 25 years, mainly from private sources, but the state of Louisiana has been a great partner in that endeavor as well. And there's more to come. There's more to do to continue to push forward and do important work.
Well, you guys recently opened the Liberation Pavilion, so that kind of completes the main campus, right? Is that it, as far as major expansion on the main campus itself? That's the last piece of that.
It's the last new piece, but right now we are in the process of getting ready to go back and redo the original D-Day exhibits that will be 25 years old in a few weeks. Beyond All Boundaries, which is the 4D movie we produced with Tom Hanks, is also getting ready to go through its first sort of major refresh in 15 years to the theater itself and some of the animation and the graphics and mechanical systems. So Liberation did complete the original master plan for the campus, but now we're going back to the beginning and redoing a lot of this. So I think it's the reality of museums today that have used technology and multimedia as an important part of the experience. You can't wait 25, 30, 40 years to update them. It's a much shorter cycle. So, yep. It's
kind of like what's the story about the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco? You're never done painting it. Once you finish it, you keep starting again.
You go right back to the start, and that's exactly what it is. That I think will be a cycle that will we'll always be working on something to improve it and update it.
Well, and you guys recently, acquired a couple of buildings on Magazine Street that were donated that you're going to use for your educational mission. So that kind of, not so much buildings, but programming and what have you, that's where a lot of the growth will be, it seems like, going forward. Probably.
That's right. So we actually have a number of projects on Magazine Street corridor. We're kind of, loosely calling that our education corridor. We're getting ready to open a support center, the Peggy and Timber Floyd Education Pavilion, that will really be a place to take care of our campus and our artifacts and our collections. There will also be a leadership training center there. And then recently, the Moreau Foundation donated a couple of properties contiguous to our campus that are going to provide some additional space for our staff, storage of artifacts and collections. And we're still kind of really working through exactly what that will be, because it literally just happened. So yeah, there are some new exciting developments coming, and really all of that built around the Higgins Hotel and Conference Center, which is also an important part of delivering on the mission every day with our symposia, our partnerships with military and veterans. So lots going on.
I'm an artifact guy. I like old things. I like, collected arrowheads as a kid on the countryside, what have you. At night, do you go and sit in the cockpit of some of the planes in there and just pretend you're a World War II fighter?
I don't do that, but I'll tell you what I do. I get to the museum early, and I would say a couple times a week, I like to walk through the exhibits when nobody else is in there. There's something really special about that. At 7:30 in the morning, you're the only person walking around the museum, you're in the gallery, you're with the artifacts, you're in the environment, and it reminds you why we're here and what we're doing. And that's also something I love to do every day. I love to stand outside the Solomon Victory Theater and watch young people come out of Beyond All Boundaries and see their faces when they walk out of that theater. It makes you feel good about the work you're doing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's, the building, you have a responsibility to keep the thing going and all that, but really it boils down to, what it's all about is the fact that these thousands and thousands of, mostly young men gave their lives all these years ago to, preserve a free world, essentially.
That's
so,
right.
I mean, that's the ground floor. That's the foundation of this thing, is the sacrifice. So, I imagine that is good for you to have that those quiet moments to reconnect with that fact every now and then.
Absolutely, and I've been in sort of a reflective mood in the last few months as we approach our 25th anniversary. And when I got to the museum almost 23 years ago, we had 150 World War II veteran volunteers.
150 World War II veteran volunteers.
Yeah,
wow.
Now we have 2. And I think of all those men and women that not only served during the war, but served the mission of the museum. And here we are at the 25th anniversary, at sort of an important inflection point for the museum, and also how World War II is held in public memory. We are quickly approaching the day when there will no longer be first-person survivors from the war.
Right.
There were 16 million men and women that put on an American uniform during World War II. There's maybe 50,000 alive. The youngest are about 100 years old. I think that means that our mission, our purpose, our responsibility is even greater. We're the storyteller now. So, it's an important time. And I think that's part of the burden and the responsibility that we feel as America's National World War II Museum, to make sure that as this generation leaves us, why this war was fought, how it was won, and why we should still consider it something important to remember isn't lost. That, at the end of the day, is what we get up to do every single day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a reason it's one of the, if not the most popular attraction in New Orleans, because you do that mission so well. We've only got a couple minutes left here. I want to circle back. You're a bit to your personal journey. You became a naturalized citizen, which I imagine gives you kind of a special maybe perspective on the values of this country and what it stands for and the sacrifice that these guys made. First off, did you ace your citizenship test?
I did. I completely overstudied for it, which is kind of generally, I guess my team would probably say that's my general approach to many things. But
right, that's on brand for you.
But
yeah.
there was a little nerves. It was a high pressure moment. But you probably know this, but I actually became a citizen at the museum in the U.S. Freedom Pavilion, the Boeing Center on our campus on July 4th, and was one of the greatest days of my life, and something I will always cherish. It was really a special thing.
This was what year? How long ago was this?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. 10 years ago. Okay. So were you still a little, you like weren't sure? Like, do I want to be an American citizen?
No, it's sort of a complicated process, and there's different ways that you get to it through student visas, work visas, permanent residency, and I probably could have been eligible a little bit earlier, but you know, it takes many years to go through that process to be eligible, and it was a proud moment. It really was, and it was something that I think going through that process and engaging and thinking about what it means to be a citizen and what this country stands for as an adult was really meaningful. It really was something special.
Well, and I would say it gave you, again, an extra perspective on the job that you hold, to be the caretaker of this museum that tells the story of America's role. So the fact that you went all the way to the root of what it means to be an American and became one. So
that's right.
Well, congratulations on all you guys' success. The first 25 years down, many, many more to go. So
thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. Once again, my guest today has been National World War II Museum President and CEO Stephen Watson. I am Keith Spera. I'll see you next time on Let's Talk.